This time on Irate Garage, I'm replacing the intake manifold gasket on my 1980 Cadillac Coupe De Ville. We have to do some other things along the way, and we open a can of worms and make a terrifying discovery. Let's get into it. So today, we're popping the cork on this. Now what's nice about these Cadillacs is it is a dry intake. So in theory, you don't have to drain the coolant system in order to change the intake manifold gasket. However, that's really only true on the 472, 500, and 425. On the 368 here, the thermostat housing comes out at an angle over one of the intake manifold bolts, and you really can't get it off without removing that. So we're gonna have to start with draining the coolant. Now what's nice on these Cadillacs is the pickup is just right there. It's probably been 30 years since that's been opened. I'm gonna go ahead and take the air cleaner off because all this stuff is just going to be in the way. Loose. There we go. Now I'm in here, I can show you what I was talking about. Obviously, AC compressor. And underneath the AC compressor, right there is the coolant hose, upper radiator hose. Also, if you look right there, you can see that the radiator hose is right above that bolt right there. I'm gonna call this part done. Gotta love Minnesota. It is May 19th and it's like 50 degrees, and it's not a very pleasant 50 degrees either. I think what we're gonna do today is remove the AC pump. I'm not gonna touch any of the lines or anything. It should just be this bolt here, and then there's a couple of bolts underneath here. But first I think I'm gonna move the battery out. That way I can just take the pump and set it here. I believe that'll work just fine. These are bolts that go all the way through, that's right. Now I remember that a 15 on the back side as well. The grease on this car is pretty impressive. And I tried to gunk it, but I swear the gunk hit the grease and the grease just laughed. So the bolt I'm trying to get to is being interfered with by the hose clamp for the heater hose that I need to, for the radiator hose I need to replace. There it goes. There. That should come up. Sit right in the battery hole. And it does. That is a bunch of grease. Ew. That, no joke, took half an hour just to take the AC compressor off. So yeah, these Cadillacs are kind of a trick to work on in a lot of ways, because of what these engines had to go in. There's not a lot of hood clearance on the Eldorados. And so these Cadillacs, everything's built to fit down in here. And that's true on the 472, 500, 425, and the 368 here. There we go. Ew. That is disgusting. Go. Now. So yeah, that was ignored for about as long as it possibly could have been. See, it was about to pop. That outer layer was gone, quite literally on borrowed time. That is really gross and nasty looking. Wonder if I should just go ahead and pull that now so I can inspect it. Scope creep is a real thing. I'll just leave the thermostat in place just to help keep the crap out of it. I think that's enough for today. I will catch you guys tomorrow or the next day, kind of depends. So we're back again. It's been a couple of days. I think I want to pull the carburetor and the fuel line off and start removing some of the vacuum line BS that's going on in here. And I'm replacing the fuel line because this thing is all rounded off and screwed up. I mean, that thing was chewed up when I got it, and it hasn't gotten any better. So since it's all chewed up, it's probably deformed, which means it doesn't seal like it should anymore either. I think I'm going to take a picture real quick just to help guide myself when it comes to putting all this back together. What's nice about these caddies is up on the core support, there's a pretty detailed vacuum diagram. There we go. All right. Well, that one doesn't want to come off. I don't think I actually needed to take that off, but it was in my way anyway. Ow! Stab yourself in the hand though. Should be everything, and it is. A zip tie, nice. You know, don't be afraid to take pictures and do what you got to do to keep track of this stuff. Keen observer will notice there is blue RTV on here, and while I can take the blame for some of it, I will not take the blame for all of it. It was like that when I got it. And a couple of years ago, this thing had a really bad miss on one hole, and I figured out it was on the passenger side here that there was a vacuum leak. And so I just did what anybody would do and just smeared more on, and it seemed to work. And now that I'm looking at it, there's like gasket material sticking out from underneath this thing. I'm curious what I'm going to see when I get in there. I've never been into this motor, so it's all new to me. I've managed to put off working on this car seriously for as long as I've owned it, which is over 20 years. I don't remember the line being rounded off on the pump. There we go. Okay, I think I got that about as good as I can get it. I vacuumed anything that was loose in here out. I think I am technically ready to remove the intake manifold. I don't know if I'm emotionally ready. I'm just going to go from outside to in. That's going to be accurate enough for me. Yep, just barely sitting there. Okay. There we go. You can actually see how there was RTV in the ports. That's all messed up. That was in the, like, hanging into the port. So I think that's enough for the day. We got the intake manifold off. That's a big step. Okay. Now you're just watching me think. See you tomorrow. So today, we are cleaning the intake manifold, maybe painting it, and I'm gonna be cleaning up the engine and removing the valley pan gasket. So let's get into it. This isn't really like a show car where I'm gonna pop the hood and have everybody ooh and ah over the engine. It is, quite frankly, a sponge pit. And I would like it to not be a sponge pit. There's red RTV on here too, so the hack job intake manifold gasket leak repair has been done a few times. 2 layers of blue RTV and 1 layer of red RTV. I think I'm going to succumb and paint it. So looking at the surface here, there's little dents and it almost looks like somebody dropped this at one point right there. So I'm just going to come and hit it with a file. There's a direction on the file that cuts and then the other direction kind of doesn't. And so we're going to back drag that burr till it's gone. A little one there too. And then that's a big one. Might have to go the other way, but look at that. That's all I want to do. Now this is the passenger side, and this is the side I was suspecting was leaking, and I can't imagine why. That is blue RTV in there into the ports. I mean, that one is in the ports. That isn't me. That was the guy before me. Ooh. Good enough. There we go. That out, not pouring any of that gross shit in the engine. That is one dirty girl. Yeah, that's lovely. That is not the cleanest engine I've ever seen. You can actually see the sludge on the lifters. And if we look at that back upper corner, that is like full-on sludge buildup. And we can see it on the push rods. That is disgusting. I'm not surprised by what this thing looks like. I'm just kind of disappointed. It's always been a sponge pit. I've had this thing 21 years I've had this car. It's always been rough and it's never really ran that great. So it's entirely possible this motor is just plain wore out and junk, for lack of a better word. Let's not talk about how much slop I can detect in the timing set, because that's alarming too. Oh well, we're just going to do what we can. Morning. I think today what I'm going to do is clean out the lifter valley, get the big chunks of carbon and build up out of there, start prepping everything else and get ready to put this back together. Yeah, let's get to it. Got some rags down in the valley here. Knock some of this carbony sludge stuff loose and get it out of here. Also this morning I took it upon myself to take a peek at the timing chain with a bore scope, and yeah, it's pretty worn. Basically, my greatest fears realized. But I can get a timing set and front gaskets. We might be doing that in a future video, provided I don't just bite the bullet and put a 472 in this thing. All right, so I got that as clean as I can. I even came in with a roll lock and a wire brush, which I don't like doing, but it was pretty bad. And I came through with the air gun and blew out all the ports and all the bolt holes to try to clean them up as best I can. Very carefully get these rags together, get them out. Now, is that the proper way to do it? Nope. But you know what? It's the way I did it. And it looks like we got pretty near everything out of there. Looking for last pieces of gasket, especially around the ports. Now what I'm going to do is come in here with the valley pan itself and just lay it in here, and I want to make sure it's going to fit in good and all that stuff. Sometimes you got to bend them. And may need some significant China wall situation. Okay. Now it came with gaskets for the end seals, and they don't quite sit very well in there. So I think we're going to go China wall. Yes. Just scraping off the little bit of paint that bled through. Actually, I forgot, I got to clean this a little bit too. I got some oil on it around the ports. Now what we're going to have to do, depending on the gasket that you have, this can be a composite material or it will be steel. This is an interesting design. I actually haven't seen this before. It's probably what was originally on this car. It is a stamped steel valley pan gasket with, this is like some form of spring steel out here. And I think, and because of that, I think we're going to treat it like a steel pan, a normal steel pan. We're going to put a little bit of sealant around the ports. The service manual for the 80 doesn't say so, but the service manual for the 81 does say to put sealant around the ports. Supposedly you're not supposed to use any on top of, between the gasket and the intake. I might put just a smidge there. Very important to get a good goop in the corner. Where they're most likely to leak. I totally just set my arm on the ports. Come on, baby. Going home. There you go. There you go. Don't know if I like the gaps in this gasket here, but it's what I have. So it's going to work just fine. Go. There you go. The plop. Cool. Make sure we put our special bolts where they gotta go. First, Oh yeah, that looks good. Good squish on the China wall there. If I really cared, I'd paint these parts to match. And like anything else, you want to get all the bolts in before you start tightening them down. Now we're talking. That one will go. All right, I'll let that dry up for an hour, and then we'll torque the bolts down. All right, I'm gonna clean this thing up and paint it, which maybe I should have done yesterday, but well, while certain things are setting up and drying, we can actually start putting things back together. Put the carburetor on, put the fuel line on, that sort of thing. I could actually replace the valve cover gaskets. Let me look into this. All right, just got all the bolts out of it. I see lots of blue RTV, which probably means it's not going to come off easy. What I want to do is break these. Although I do have a set for a 500 that might work. Jesus. I got that spread apart a little bit. Come in with the razor and cut the silicone. That way, hopefully I don't have to pry on this thing a whole lot. There she goes. There we go. Oh, honey. Oh, baby. Oh. In the words of David Freiberger, junk. Where you've been rode hard and put up wet. Oh, what do we got back here? Right there on the rocker is blue silicone. Genius. There we go. Holy buckets. My God. This is why I did not do this part with the intake manifold not, oh my God, not installed. Look at the gross, oh no. Oh honey, you were treated bad. You were treated so bad. Big chunk of silicone on that push rod. This side's going to be harder to clean. Well, actually, the bottom will be easier because there's not much down here. Well, that's good. There's not much down here, probably because they rubbed it off on all the rockers on the way in. Look at it. Well, I think my suspicions about the motor are slowly getting confirmed. My hour is up, so I'm going to go ahead and torque these bolts. You want to start in the middle and work your way out. The book spec is 30 pounds. And then come back to the middle and check them. See how they loosened up? I'm going to repeat the process until when I get to the middle, they're tight. Man, I love RTV. It's great. People should use it for everything. Why buy a gasket when you can just glue your valve covers on your car? And I'm so glad that I spent, I don't know, an hour scraping RTV and silicone and various other things off of it, only to discover that there is a crack at the bottom. Right there, you can see the daylight. This is the driver's side valve cover. The passenger side valve cover is not cracked all the way through. However, it is indeed cracked. So, after cleaning those up and discovering that, it's kind of pointless to put them back on. So, I have the old valve covers off of the 500 that I put in my 81 Fleetwood. And they should work just fine. They're a little ugly and beat up, but realistically, you can't hardly see them. And I believe these are the same color blue that the intake manifold is. A valve cover gasket sitting on top of the head, stuck with grease, not RTV. You gotta think about the next time you're in here. Not just this time. So got the valve covers on, and I totally didn't drop a bolt behind the motor on the very back corner of that valve cover there. Totally didn't do that. Everything is good to go. Alright, I just put the thermostat housing back on. Now I'm putting the carb back on. And I'm adding some washers to these bolts because they're kind of chewing up the carburetor housing here. It's kind of exciting. She's going back together. Everything I do is one step closer. Right through here. Well, it appears I will have to figure out how to reuse the original line. That, now it is bottomed out in the pump, just about hits the lower crank pulley, and then up here it isn't even close. It is some shit. This thing was $40. And I was hoping I wouldn't have to do hillbilly shit in order to have a functioning fuel system. Now I will engage in hillbilly shit. So what I think I'm going to do is cut this end off because it's all rounded off and chowdered and it doesn't want to seal anymore. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here and then make a new end, put it in the carburetor, and then we'll just run a little piece of rubber hose. I hate that, but it'll be fine. I like it. One thing I'm not going to say I forgot to do, but I forgot I had to do was replace the alternator. Anyway, I ordered the wrong one for my Eldorado a couple of years ago, and this was the wrong one. And so I ordered the right one, and since this one was pretty much oriented the way this car would need it, I decided it would be for this car. Ooh, that's tight. So apparently that bolt tried really hard to thread itself into the wrong size threads. So what I'm doing now is tapping the hole again, and hopefully it's the right size this time. Well, there we go. I've legit been out here for 8 hours today, and then add a couple hours from over the course of the week. You know, I'm probably at 10 hours on this job. RTV would slow anybody down. There's other things to use, people. Just like there's more things to clean your hands than just brake cleaner. Okay, battery lights blinking. I am done. See you tomorrow. It is the next day. Everything's had plenty of time to cure up. I believe now we can add coolant and work on getting this thing fired up. God damn it. Hey, the side post on the battery just stripped out. I'm sure that won't become a plot point in this video at all. Okay, I think I got everything in place and ready to go. I also have my timing light out. Not so much that I'm going to adjust the timing, but I want to check the RPM on the fast idle, because it seems high on this car usually, because we've just changed everything. So it might be too high, it might not be high enough, who knows. I'm just going to do a quickie tune on the carb once we get her fired up and moved out. All right, here we go. Spot on. It's so quiet. It runs so smooth. All right, let's move it out. It usually stutters really bad. It feels great. So now I'm going to do a real quick tune-up on the carburetor. Well, by God, I think we're pretty good. And one thing I almost forgot to do, you want to make sure you put this zip tie back in here and zip tie the hose. Otherwise it'll fly into the belt here, and then we're going to cut it. Now when you cut a zip tie, you want to use flush cuts. Up against it, nip perfectly smooth. Please, flush cuts, people. Now there's one more big key component in making this car less sucky, and that is in this box here. Now, I have spent years messing with this stupid locking gas cap, and I hate it. So in this box is a new standard gas cap. There we go. All right, got a couple of gallons of coolant and a screwdriver. That should be able to solve anything that I forgot, that I failed to get correct the first time. Let's go for a spin. Just stopped off real quick, look it over. It is running good. Nice and smooth, quiet. And it seems to be driving just fine. And it's holding right around 190. So I think we'll call that good. Keep on cruising. I am going to declare victory on the whole intake manifold gasket thing. It's running good, it's running smooth. It did feel like maybe it had a little stumble to it at one point, but the road was shit, so you never can tell. And although we did have a good victory with the whole intake manifold thing, we did discover that the timing set needs to be addressed. But oddly enough, it seems to run just fine. But, you know, that's just the way it goes sometimes. I have to do a little research on it. It does look like it's an in-the-car type of job. You can do it in the car. So I'll have to do a little poking around and research on that. And but for now, I'm going to ignore it. It's not like I drive the car very far anyway. And it's not exactly a high RPM application here. So if or when I do the timing set, you will see it here on Irate Garage. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you look right here, I'll pick another video out just for you. Be safe, and I'll catch you in the next one.